Hello, I'm Laurie Lane-Zucker, founder and CEO of Impact Entrepreneur, and we are here at the SOCAP conference, largest impact investing conference in the world, San Francisco, California, interviewing tremendous impact luminaries like Luni Libes, Fledge. Hi, Luni.
Hey, thanks for having me over.
I've known Luni for a few years now. You really do extraordinary work. You're based out in Bainbridge, right, in Seattle?
In Bainbridge Island, which is across the sea from Seattle.
Right, exactly. A short ferry ride also. Beautiful one. So, Luni, you've been involved in supporting social entrepreneurs and involved in impact investing for, well, how many years now?
It's not quite 8 yet, but more than 7.
And Fledge is not your first and last business in this endeavor. We'll talk about Fledge, but do you want to just mention some of the other work you've done in the area?
Sure. So in the world of impact, I've been in this space for 8 years. Before that, I was just a techie. You've read about that. People don't need to hear about that. And so Fledge is my main piece. So we'll get that in a second. Second would be Investor Flow. So investorflow.org is a free online network for all impact investors of all shapes and sizes, a place to share what's going on and get other people to follow what you're doing. And then on top of that, I did launch a pre-accelerator program for a while called Kick, handed it off to someone else to do that. And then I read some books. One's in my hand here.
What is that one?
This one's on revenue-based finance. So revenue-based finance. And so I'm one of the advocates for how to invest in companies where you don't need exits because of 2 reasons why. One, in this space, there aren't very many exits, especially if you're going to go outside the U.S., right? I do a whole lot of investing in Africa, and there aren't any exits in Africa. And the second one is, in the world of social good, when a company gets acquired by another company, they're selling out, and it's a bad time, and we worry about impact and how and transitions and whatnot. Versus back in the tech world, an acquisition is a good thing, and everybody cheers and calls that an exit and claps, even if the company isn't doing business next year. And so we need to have ways to invest in these companies where they can keep going and keep going forever.
Yeah, and I've been following your work and your thought leadership around revenue-based exits, and it just makes eminent sense, and I would strongly recommend the audience to look at your blog, right? Don't you have a blog where you put most of your writings on these matters?
I do. So it's Lunar Mobiscuit. Easiest way to find it is just Google Luni, Luni, or Luni and Fledge, or Luni in Seattle, and it'll pop up. And not only am I blogging, I'm actually podcasting now. So I've had a podcast that's also called The Next Step, same as the book series. That's been running for a year, and I just launched a second podcast, and that's called The Opportunity is Africa. And that is launched on the brand new Africa Business Radio Network.
Oh, great. I somehow you've managed to stretch 24 hours into something a little bit longer in the day. Let's talk about Fledge. What does Fledge do?
So Fledge is a global network of business accelerators for impact companies. So it used to be just a conscious company accelerator. It used to just be in Seattle. We would just run programs there twice a year. And then about 3 years ago, it's 2019, so about 3 years ago, we started teaching others how to do what we do. And so we have partners now in 11 more cities, and we've run programs. They haven't all had a chance to run something yet, but we've run programs for entrepreneurs in 7 cities, and they generally use, we love it when our partners do different things, but they generally use the form of people apply either globally or regionally. The one city picks 7 or 8 companies to come in. Everybody who comes in gets money. In my city, it's $20,000. In Europe, it was 15,000 euros. Varies a little bit from here to there. But the money comes with an invitation for 2 months to be with us. So we just had 6 companies from 5 different countries come to Seattle for 2 months, and we spent every single day with them, making them better, working on their business plan, their sales plan, their marketing plan, teaching them what it's like to raise money, teaching them how to tell their story, getting them up on stage in front of an audience, telling that story, all of that really intensely for 2 months, and then they went home. And then we've done that 15 times with 95 companies in 27 countries.
And how are those companies doing kind of as a whole? What's the picture?
All right, so in general, if you hear the anecdote that half the companies you know now are dead in 3 years, that actually...
I've heard a higher percentage, but go ahead.
Okay, well, the Kaufman number and the SBA number is half of all companies are gone in 3 years. We have 78% of our graduates are still going. So, just over 20% have given up. And nearly all of those were 6-7 years ago when we were just working with idea stage companies that hadn't proven anything. We and the rest of the industry shifted now. So we're mostly working with companies that have a little bit of revenue. So we have at least some proof that customers like them, and we've only had 2 or 3 failures since then.
How many companies have? Well, what's the fundraising relationship between Fledge and the companies look like? Are you helping them? Are you making introductions? Are you holding their hand? What kind of assistance, if any, are you giving on the capital raise?
Yeah, so the answer is yes. So it starts with money. So every company that we invite in is handed a check. We're the first institutional investor in 94 of 95 of these companies.
And you are not taking equity?
Yeah, so we take equity, but it's redeemable revenue equity. It's a little odd, right? But it is still equity, legally and structurally. And so everybody has an investor by the time they leave, which is important because when you go out to talk to the next bunch of investors, when you say we're looking for more investors instead of the first investor, there's some momentum. So we're helping just by that. Secondly, we have a giant network that's global of investors that we know.
Are you talking about investor flow now, or is it a Fledge network?
Still in Fledge, right? So I started Investor Flow to help others do this too, right? So, of the investors that are in this gigantic room here, we know a lot of them. I can't say we know all of them, but we know a lot of them and we know what they like. And so when we finish a program, all of the investors we know will get an email saying, here's every fledgling that ever graduated from Fledge who's raising money right now, and a blurb and a description, and they'll get a personal email that says, and given that you like, we'll just make a random one, given that you like ag in Botswana, which is not true of anybody here, you should go look at Kalahari honey. And here's their video, right? Their demo day 5-minute talk, and here's some stats about them and so forth. So we're, as much as we can, we're giving the investors what they need to start the conversations. Oh, and the email address of the founder and all that. And we've sat down with this entrepreneur and all the others for 2 months, every day. So the investors can also come to us as fellow investors and say, well, what's the team like? What's the financials like? And we know it because we helped them build a financial model. We at least have reviewed everything. And so we can speak much more deeply than any other investor. We're sitting in this weird spot between, we're sitting on the side of the table with the entrepreneur, but we're selling them to investors and we're an investor. So we do that, and we have some follow-on funds. So our investors, we're all funded by investors as well. So our investors have given us some money to invest in some of the companies. And so sometimes we lead, sometimes we follow, sometimes we're the only investor, sometimes they don't need that much, and so we'll just give them that. We just started doing invoice financing. So sometimes really what happened is this company comes through and they have an order that comes in like while they're in the program or soon afterwards. And really they don't need equity investment, they don't need a big loan. What they need is the money to go fulfill the order to make a profit. So now we can do that too. So we just put a bunch of that to work.
And can you give me a sense of some of the places other than Seattle where you've done Fledge cohorts?
Sure. So first one not in Seattle was Lima, Peru. So that was up and down Latin America in terms of people who came. Plus, we did bring in 2 from Africa into Peru, which seems weird, but we did it. This year we ran a program in Boston. That was the first accelerator for co-ops in the world. We've run a cohort in Barcelona, but it was just emerging markets. We ran a cohort at the University of Padua, Italy. That one was Europe and Africa again. Somewhere in here we had a company from India show up. And then our newest partner is World Resources Institute. And they created, with our help, they created a program called the Land Accelerator, and that's just for restorative agriculture. And it's a small, as I say, we like variations. So they're a shorter program. It's a week long, more teams, shorter time frame. And we just ran 2 of those in Nairobi in the last year. Next one will be in Latin America.
So in that instance, you have a big NGO, conservation-minded NGO, that is, they're providing the sponsorship dollars to get that cohort going. What are they also providing follow-on funding for entrepreneurs? I'm interested in that model and how big NGOs are increasingly getting engaged in the impact investing sector.
Yeah, so everything they do is done through grants provided by foundations and DFIs. So the first Land Accelerator was sponsored by the U.S. State Department and the German Foreign Development Group. The second one was that same German Foreign Development Group and the Doan Foundation.
That's in Europe, yeah.
Yeah, in Europe, and I don't know, and in Amsterdam, and I don't know who's funding the Latin American one because I'm not in there. That's my partner's problem. So we didn't do the $20,000 in those cases, but we did do 3,000 euros per team as a grant, as opposed to an investment. And yeah, there are graduates, and they're being supported by WRI and us, and we're shopping them out for investment as well.
Give me the website for Fledge so people can get more information.
Okay, so number one way people find us is they type the word Fledge into Google. We're usually the first thing that pops up or the second, but it is fledge.co is where you'll find Fledge.
And how about a domain for investor flow?
Investor flow would be investorflow.org.
Okay, great. Luni, thanks for stopping in. Appreciate it.